Welcome to MSP Voice, the weekly show for MSPs by MSPs. Brought to you by Cloudberry, the #1 cross-platform cloud backup. Learn more at cloudberrylab.com. This is MSP Voice. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. This is episode number 23. Very excited to have Michael Drobnis from OptfinITy here with us today for the interview. Definitely he's got a lot of great things to talk about and look forward to that. But first, we do have some housekeeping as well as our Best of Reddit series. So first off, I want to remind everyone, mspvoice.com is our website. So definitely go there. We're posting information there. We post the podcast there. You can sign up to get updates on new episodes, those types of things. And also there's an announcement there that we're starting a webinar series. So the MSP Voice webinar series will focus probably more with vendors. But again, we want to help to provide some useful information to you guys. So our first one coming up on November 28th is with Mind Matrix. They do some automated marketing and sales help for the MSP community. So very much looking forward to that. If you want to register, just go to mspvoice.com. Find the article there with Mind Matrix and click on the registration link, and we'll get you all set. Now, if you don't join live, don't worry, we will be posting recordings on the site as well. Next up is we have a Facebook group. So MSP Voice Community is our Facebook group. So definitely take a look at that in Facebook. Request to join, we'll get you approved, and then you can provide us some good feedback in terms of what you want to see here on MSP Voice, whether it's the webinar series or this podcast and those types of things. So another great way to give us some feedback. So let's jump into Best of Reddit. So we've got a few things going on here today. First up is if you're a small business and you don't have a lot of employees, how do you do HR, 401k, health insurance, those types of things? So this person is actually in California. So they're asking specific to California, what kind of, companies offer this to small 1 or 2 person shops. And there's some good advice. Now, not necessarily everything is about California or California specific. One person says, hey, check with your Chamber of Commerce. There's another one that says we offer a simple IRA option, very similar to 401k, and they do a matching at 3%. For HR, they got a local company to work with us. And then for group health insurance, when the ACA came into play, it really messed us up. So they used to provide 100%. So now they may not provide that. But then there's also a couple of people that recommend companies like Gusto is what someone uses. They are now 4 people, but they used to be 2. They do payroll, 401k, and health insurance. It's freaking awesome. Something that someone else here, people keep in guideline.com. So those are some options. So if you're out there and you want to offer some of these things to your employees, which I think is great, 401k, payroll, health insurance, all those types of things, definitely check out this post. Next up is we have kind of a common issue, I guess, is how do you authenticate one of your customers when they call? So let's say they forgot their password, they need to call you to reset it. How do you know it's actually them on the phone? Really, really good topic here. It's one I think that's popped up a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, but this one seems to be the authority on it. And there's a number of comments here, but basically, you need to authenticate that person. And some people say use the cell phone. Other people say, well, that's too difficult. You'd have to look the phone up and call a master phone. So there's a lot of different kind of ways to do it. Of course, one of the popular ones is to use, multi-factor authentication like Duo, because they have it on their phone. You can authenticate them that way, send the token, those types of things. So a lot of good suggestions here. But people are saying collect user cell phones. I talked about that. If you have Duo deployed, you can send a manual push. Site codes are painfully difficult to maintain and easily get hacked, or a hacker can easily get a hold of them. So if they give you a site code, that's not necessarily foolproof. But the cell phone idea is pretty good. Now, if someone says, oh, it takes too long for the tech to look up the cell phone, and then another person said, well, hey, your customer only has to call that one number. And if you can't maintain a list and provide that service to your customer, then are you really doing anything for your customer? So you want to make it easy for the customer, even if it's not easy for you. So some definitely really good advice on that. Next up, we have marketing advice, right? So have you ever hired a freelancer or contractor to do your MSP's online advertising? Did it work? What were the results? So again, another common type of question that we get a lot here is, about marketing and sales and those types of things. So there's some people who are, who are following this, and there's some good advice here. And one person talks about, AdWords not being all that great. Another person talks about using a local advertising agency to drum up some additional online leads, and the results haven't been stellar. I think part of it is, obviously, if you're working with someone, they need to understand what your business is, and they need to understand some technology things as well. So, here's another person who tried a couple different things. They tried Upwork and Freelancer. Those are places you can go to find a freelancer, but they didn't have great results with that. And what he did is he went to his local university and hired a sophomore who was specialized in digital marketing, and hired that person to do their marketing for them. Gave them a budget of $2,000, said do whatever you want with it, and they had excellent results with it. And even though that person has now graduated and has gone on to another job, they trained one of his staff in order, how to do that. So even though when that college student left, went on to their career, they still had a good basis for what to do. So I thought that was some really excellent advice. You have to pay college kids. Don't offer them an unpaid internship, but you don't have to necessarily pay them as much as someone with 30 years of experience. So anyway, if you're interested in marketing, check that thread out. Some really good advice. Next up, we have an MSP without VCIO is a fixed fee break fix shop. So this is one of those posts that's meant to elicit a lot of responses. Apparently some people are saying, hey, if you don't offer VCIO, all you are is break fix, you're not true managed services. So you can imagine that this is a lot of responses, right? In terms of what people are saying, and people who say they offer VCIO, that it's not even VCIO because they're not doing it. It's just a fancy name, and those types of things. So a lot of good discussion here. Because most MSPs offer IT guidance. Is that VCIO, or is that basically consulting? And so, a lot of, I think there's upwards of 60 comments on this post. So, everyone has an opinion on this, but it kind of seems, and the ones that have been upvoted the most is, VCIO is kind of a marketing term maybe, and as an MSP, you're offering that advice consulting. If you choose to call it VCIO, then great. If you just want to call it a consultant, it's not necessarily as specific, but that's what some others recommend as well. So really good, interesting discussion there. Would love to see you guys weigh in on that. Next up is some career advice. So should I move to an MSP? So this person currently has a job. I think they don't actually state that. They're going from a desk side position to an MSP. So they've already interviewed with this MSP. This MSP is really interested in having them on board, but he's kind of wondering, should he do it? Should he take the leap? And there were a couple of things that he mentioned in his post, like the fact that they expect that he will be working overtime, but they don't pay for overtime. It says overtime is common and not paid extra, but they would buy lunch for the day. So you work 12 hours instead of 8 and you get a free lunch. That doesn't really sound all that great to me, and that's what a lot of other folks commented on as well. And he was kind of wanting to know what's the average, how many tickets can he expect on it, in a day, and those types of things. So of course that led to a lot of questions from others with ads. Do you have some more detail? Those types of things. The largest client has 200 users, and he asked about the tickets, and they're almost all reactive. So other folks are saying that doesn't sound like an MSP. That sounds like a break fix shop. If everything's reactive, you're not doing anything proactive. And of course, it kind of goes down and forth. But I think the big thing for me was that overtime thing. That if they say overtime is common, but they're not going to pay you for overtime, then it's probably not a good place for you, because we all know in this business, in IT, things don't always break 9 to 5. Where you're needed, or you've got to triage something. So it seems odd that they would not pay for overtime. So anyway, that was just a big red flag, and a lot of people pointed that out. But if you want to jump in here on this thread and give him some advice, feel free. And lastly, this kind of piqued my interest because someone in our Facebook group asked about documentation and how do you manage documentation. So I saw this on Channel Pro, and I thought maybe, hey, you know what? I'm just going to point this out. So IT Boost is they're a documentation type company. They're taking on IT Glue in documentation with adoption and migration push. So if you're not familiar with IT Boost, they launched about a year ago at IT Nation. And now they're coming out with version 3, launching it again this week at IT Nation. And it sounds like they're going to be very aggressive in terms of acquiring IT Glue customers. So they talk about a migration utility and pricing and free trials and a whole bunch of different things. So if you're interested in that and the documentation, maybe you use IT Glue now and you don't care, or maybe you're looking for something. I just wanted to point it out that it seems like IT Boost is going to start getting very aggressive. Competition is always good because competition, definitely keeps prices in check and those types of things. So we'll see what kind of effect they have on the market. And I mentioned IT Nation, so I am going to be there this week. So hopefully I'll see some of you there. And with that, let's go ahead and get to our interview with Michael Drobnis of OptfinITy. Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by Michael Drobnis of OptfinITy out of the Fairfax County, Virginia area, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay, so Michael, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business?
Sure. So OptfinITy has been around for about 17 years, and essentially we are the outsourced IT department for around 50 organizations, mostly in the DC metro area, as well as offering everything from managed services to websites, mobile app development, as well as phone systems.
Wow, that's quite a list. Then a lot of MSPs I talk to, it's just they just offer the managed IT services. They don't have the mobile app development and web development, those types of things. So it's a good list.
Yeah, we want to be the advisor for our clients, and what better way to do that than to be able to provide them with what they need.
Yeah. So what kind of made you go into this business? Did you have a career in IT first? Did you?
Yeah, I've been in IT for a long time, mostly in management, managed an IT department of a consulting firm, worked in the management of IT for Iron Mountain, which is a Fortune 500 company.
Yep.
Moved to the DC area and decided it was time to start something new.
Okay, great. So you had more of a management, I think you have your MBA, so you have more of a management background maybe than technical?
I'd say it's probably 50-50. I've got quite a few certifications as well.
Okay, great. So I guess that, one of the next questions is, how do you manage this technical on the business side? Because a lot of people come into the MSP world, with that technical background and maybe not the business background, but you kind of had the best of both with that 50-50 mix.
Yeah, and when the business started, it was definitely more of a lifestyle business. So I was doing more of the technical. It wasn't until I really got into managed services where I said, all right, it's time to take it to the next level and really try to have other people do the work while I manage the process. But you're never out of there, and every once in a while, just to get away from the management. Like yesterday, I took a ticket and worked on it, resolved the print queue, just to keep me in tune with what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. You got to keep those technical chops sharpened, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So you didn't really do any kind of transition from break fix. I'm guessing everything is managed. Like you said, you're kind of the outsourced IT for your customers. Do you do any break fix at all?
Not as much anymore. I mean, we started with break fix, but that was more when I was just myself and a contractor. When we moved to managed services, it became more of an employee-based model. But we still do some, but it's typically for the CEO of a company who needs stuff at home versus the typical business.
Yeah. So you said you've been in business for 17 years. How large is your team now?
So there are about 14 people that work on things. I mean, we're still a relatively small business.
Yeah, well, but it's a lot of our listeners are owner operators, sole proprietors. So it's
right.
It's good to see you can be successful at this and you can grow your business and have employees. You don't have to do everything yourself. And in terms of customers, understanding where you're located, do you focus on any verticals? Is it all government work, or do you branch out in some other areas too?
We don't do any government. It's all commercial, but we do a lot of associations. There's an association for everything in this world.
Yeah.
So a lot of associations, medical and professional services is really what we do.
Okay, cool. So I just, you get that assumption you're in the Virginia area, Northern Virginia area, and you're probably doing government work, but not everyone does that.
It's a unique breed. So
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So kind of looking at from a software perspective, what kind of software do you guys use to run your business?
So from a RMM perspective,
Mhm.
mostly Continuum. We've been with them for about 9 years.
Oh, okay.
We utilize ConnectWise as our PSA. QuickBooks is still doing our receivables once ConnectWise processes those.
Yeah.
And so those are the main items. And then, of course, the various tools from antivirus and others that we utilize. But those are the main operational tools.
Yeah. So how often do you reevaluate those? Are you always looking, or are you just happy with what you got?
We're always looking. I go to at least 2 to 3 shows a year just to see what's out there.
Okay, great. So, understanding, getting new business, do you have an advertising model? Are there ways you advertise?
Well, there is, but I mean, most of it is more networking as opposed to advertising. So very big in the
Hmm.
chambers of commerce. I'm a past president of one chamber, on the board of
Okay.
2 others. So we do a lot of that. Every single employee in the office is required to partake in a chamber or a community-oriented organization. And that
Okay.
includes the technicians as well. So
Yeah.
we do that. We do AdWords, newsletters, social media, all the
Yeah.
above.
Okay. The chambers, and having your employees and everyone, do that is a good way to at least get out there and people know who you are and your name and those types of things. So
Absolutely.
yeah, good advice there. Speaking of advice, for someone who might be just starting out in services, what kind of advice do you have for them? Any tips or tricks, so to speak?
The biggest advice is come with a plan. I didn't have one. I just sort of said, well, what am I going to do? And I started doing some IT consulting and so forth.
Hmm.
But if you don't have a plan, you're just going to be going by the seat of your pants. It just doesn't work. You need to dedicate at least 20% of your time each week on the business as opposed to in the business.
Okay.
And if you do that, and if you look with a plan and you have a project, you say, okay, this is where I want to be. This is my goals. You'll do a lot better than just saying, well, let's see what I can do.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Always good to have a plan. Thinking about, your career as an MSP and, all the things you've seen and done, what are some of your favorite parts of being in managed services?
Well, I think the ability to provide a level of predictability to our clients, especially as associations, which are run by boards, which have
Hmm.
set budgets, they really need that. They need to know that, hey, this is what it is. They know that their budget's going up or down based on the government, based on foundations, funding. So that is a big piece.
Hmm.
And so being able to realize that they know what they're going to get, they know the level of support they're going to get, and they look at us as a partner as opposed to just a vendor. That
Yeah.
is the best part of being in the managed services side.
Okay. Yeah, I know you highlighted vendor management on your website too, as something you do for them, which, most people, not every MSP kind of advertises that as part of, it's an important part of IT is, managing the IT vendors, whether it's hardware or software. So I thought that was good in terms of highlighting that on your website, that's something you offer.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is that if it involves technology, we don't want our clients to have to worry about it.
Yep. Like I said, one number to call.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the best part. What about what's some of the worst parts or the things you don't like about being in the MSP world?
Well, like anything, I mean, anything that goes wrong in technology, it's your fault. It doesn't really matter what it is, who made it, who did it. And so
Hmm.
that's always a challenge. Being able to look at somebody who calls you up and all they want to do is blame somebody, and you just want to smile and say, yep, we'll solve
Yeah.
it. It's your fault, but we'll solve it. So I mean, that's definitely a challenge because people are only calling you when they have a complaint. They're not
Yeah.
calling you to say hello.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the worst part, is you're really getting people when they have issues that they need solved, and legitimately so. But even so,
Hmm.
that's that's the only reason they call you. That can be a challenge.
Yeah. No. So you mentioned earlier you do a lot of work for associations. In the MSP community, do you belong to any associations, or do you kind of where do you hang out in terms of other MSPs, and tips and tricks and advice amongst yourselves?
Yeah, we're very involved. I mean, so both myself and one other person in my office, we do a lot with CompTIA. We're in the
Hmm.
ASCII group. We do the user groups with ConnectWise, go to the conferences for IT Nation, Continuum. I
Okay.
just went to the Datto conference, member of HTG. So, I mean, we try
Mhm.
to stay involved and aware of what's going on at all times.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And do you find that extremely valuable to be because I know a lot of people might weigh hey, do I join this group or not? Do they provide value? Do you get a lot of value out of those groups?
I think you got to look at what you're going for. I mean, I go to the
Hmm.
conferences to network with other IT providers and to look at the vendors at the trade show.
Yeah,
The seminars, they're the same. They're the
yeah,
same speakers, the same people, the same everything. I'm not going for that. I'll skip that any day
yeah,
just to talk to other IT providers and learn from them and let them learn from me.
yeah. We did a few ASCII events this year, and it's kind of the presentations in every city are the same, so
Exactly.
you only need to go to one.
Right.
Um, thinking about technology, what technologies are you most excited about today, or that are coming in the near future?
Well, I think everything, and this is excited, scared, all the above, is security. I mean,
Hmm.
what's going on in the world from whether it's state sponsored like Chinese or just some hackers, but the things that you didn't realize they could do, at least the NSA was doing, but we weren't aware of. Um,
Yeah.
those are challenges. It's no longer a question of can somebody listen to you? It's who's listening to you and how do you
Hmm.
prevent that?
Yeah.
But then again, there are a lot of great tools that are coming out that you're like, wow, this could be done. How does that work? And that as somebody who's a problem solver and likes to see that stuff, that's really exciting. It's kind of cool to see what we can do today. I mean, to think 10, 15 years ago, while I was managing an IT department, that I could turn machines on, when they were powered off,
Hmm.
resolve the issue, turn them back off again. You just never even would have thought of that being the case, or the fact that my phone has more computing power than the computer that sent people to the moon.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, that is the part that's exciting. Is there's so
Hmm.
many new things coming out, but again, that's also the thing that's the biggest worry because not only are they coming out, but the bad people are able to do that as well. And so
Yeah.
their tools, their challenges, their techniques become more and more difficult to protect against.
Hmm. And do you offer proactive education for your customers, on how to identify types of threats, like phishing and those types of things?
Yeah, no, so every client of ours is required to do an online training course.
Okay.
We send out fake phishing every single week. If they fail it twice, they have to take another training
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
We provide monthly reports to all of our clients, and then we also have tools in place to stop those phishing, which is part of the challenge because we'll send out the fake phishing and then our tools will capture them. But
Yeah.
yes, we do that.
Okay, yeah, because I know that's an important part. There's obviously the technology aspect, but then there's also the user training aspect of telling what people to watch out for, what not to click, what not to say when someone calls, and those types of things. So it's good to have that proactive approach with the customers themselves.
Oh, I mean, most of the hacking that occurs is not somebody sitting in some dark room on a computer. It's somebody utilizing some social awareness to trick somebody else to
Hmm.
allow them to do something. So the more educated our clients are, the better it is for them and the better it is for us.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, so that was kind of the best and worst technologies all in one. We're getting into our rapid fire round now, so this is meant to be fun.
All right.
There is no wrong answer, but it's a series of 6 questions, and just whatever answer first comes to your head, just let us know, and we'll go through these as quick as we can. All right.
Go for it.
All right. So first off, Apple or Android?
Android.
Okay. Mac, Linux, or Windows?
For me, Windows.
Okay. Cloud, Amazon, Azure, or something else?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say Azure.
Okay. Um, Backups, local backups, cloud, or both?
A hybrid approach is definitely the best approach.
Yeah, definitely. Virtualization, should you always virtualize? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, which is worse, printer support or vendor cold calls?
Oh, printer support, because my staff doesn't allow the vendor cold calls to come to me. So
So you're in a lucky position then.
yeah,
And like you said, you work some tickets every once in a while, so you might get one of those printer supports. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely. So that's about it. Let's wrap things up here. Before we leave, anything else you want to say to the audience out there if they're listening, advice, those types of things?
Like anything, I think, one thing we don't ever talk about when we talk business stuff is having a good balance of work versus life.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, I've worked the 90-hour weeks. I've worked 40 hours straight. I won't do that anymore. And I still do work, probably a good 50 to 60 each week.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same token, anyone in my staff will tell you that half the time I'm taking time off to go have lunch at my daughter's elementary schools or whatever the case may be. And as a person who's looking to start up or anyone who's looking to run a business, all the money in the world, all the success in the world means nothing if you can't enjoy it with the people around you.
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest advice I have.
Oh, that's great advice, and I've taken that advice myself a few times in my career. So,
Yeah,
Michael, I really appreciate you agreeing coming on today, and hope to see you at one of those vendor shows here in the near future.
I appreciate it. Thanks you for your time.
All right, thank you.